Okay, we are recording and I've got 9 o'clock. Joanna, what do you?
Yeah, okay. Sure. All right. Good morning, everyone. Really happy to see so many of you here today. And nice to see some faces on the screen on this beautiful day before we get lots more snow because we haven't had enough. But the purpose of today's meeting is to give everyone here a bit of an introduction to the end. We're going to go through your packages, which hopefully most of you have received in the mail at this point, and talk about what's in there, what to do with that, and provide a bit of some insights into getting into crop track and kind of a bit about how to enter some data there and just get you a little bit familiarized with that and talk about some resources, some upcoming things to keep in the calendar, and just make sure that you are all well prepared going into the 2025 winter wheat growing season. So before we really jump into things, I wanted to make sure that everyone was introduced to our team here. So our team meets every Friday morning at 8:30 to make sure this program is running nice and smoothly and that you as the producers and the agronomists have everything you need. On my screen here, I can see Dennis Pennington from Michigan State University, which wheat extension special, I was going to say wish extension specialist, but wheat extension specialist out of Michigan State there. I'm just going through my screen here. Next there, we've got Jody Pollock Newsome from Michigan Wheat Program. Jody is a huge supporter of the program, and so is Michigan Wheat Program, and helping with all the sponsorship and registration and all sorts of things there in Michigan. Next on my screen there, we've got Marty Vermey, the senior agronomist from the Grain Farmers of Ontario. Grain Farmers of Ontario has been a huge part of this program here in Ontario, supporting the team in all sorts of aspects. And then also on my screen here, we've got Laura Ferrier, also an agronomist with Grain Farmers of Ontario, providing support. And unfortunately today, we don't have Alex Dacey with us, but Alex is the agronomy project coordinator with Grain Farmers of Ontario, and she's a huge support. She keeps us all in line. And honestly, we could not do this without her. And you'll be seeing a lot of communications from Alex, which we'll show you a little bit later on. But Alex is also just wanted to make sure that you're all aware of her and familiar with her because you'll be hearing from her a lot this summer too. And then, of course, we've also got Dr. Josh Nozelsky from the University of Guelph. Josh helps do all the modeling related to the yield potential that you get in your report at the end of the season. Also a huge supporter in just helping us do data analysis and making sure that we're providing you the most valuable information and data. So a huge thank you to this whole team. There's a few of us presenting today, but really every single person on the screen has been a huge part of this program and is critical in ensuring that this program is a success. Um, so for those of you who might be new to the program, just a very quick background. So we did start the project in 2021. We just started with 43 fields, and we're excited to actually, be well beyond that. We're almost at 200 fields. It's 187 there, but I actually think it's 188 fields here in 2025. So we're about the same number of fields as 2024, but you can see there's quite the range in geography there. Really excited to see so many participants from different states. So obviously Ontario, but we've also got Wisconsin, Kentucky, Missouri, New York, and it's great to see so many people from across the U.S. Participating in this well, and it's really exciting because I think it gives us all a really cool opportunity to learn some unique things from one another. So hopefully by now, most of you, if not all of you, would have received your yen package in the mail. So it was it's about a 3 foot long cardboard box. The cardboard box that you would have got mailed to you, it's really critical that you all also hold on to that box, as it's what you are actually going to ship your grab sample back to us in. So I know there's been instances where folks are doing some cleanup and think that that's got to be recycled, but you're going to have to hold on to that until we get to harvest. And in that long cardboard box, you hopefully would have received all sorts of goodies. The protocols were in there, all of the prepaid shipping containers that you would need to send your tissue soil samples. For new participants, we also sent you a meter stick or a yardstick so that previous participants have received a couple of them, so we didn't send them again. We just sent them to new participants. And new participants in Ontario, and I believe the US as well, would have also received a wheat staging guide to help you with the stages or staging your crop throughout the growing season. And then, of course, there was also some really great information in there from our sponsors as well that I'd encourage you to read through and check out again, as they are a huge supporter of this program. So the biggest thing is to please make sure you hold on to this really large cardboard box because it's going to be critical for later. So we're going to just go through a little bit, just a high level of some of the things that we're hoping or that you are going to need to do this growing season, as well as kind of a step-by-step of doing them. So obviously, there's quite a bit of agronomic data. That's all going to be collected through our database called CropTrack, which Dennis is going to go through here shortly. Whatever is laid out in CropTrack is the only information we need. So if it's not in CropTrack, we're not going to ask you to provide it to us. There's also going to be the first thing that's going to need to happen is a soil sample is going to need to be collected this spring prior to any fertilizer application. So once the weather gets a little bit nicer, I know it's hard to think about soil sampling right now, but before we know it, the snow is going to be gone and there's going to be an opportunity there, especially for those in Kentucky. They're going to be getting to go here probably in a couple weeks. So after the soil sample, there are two tissue samples. One is at first node, so that's when you get that first bump on that main stem. Once that shows up, that's our first tissue sampling, and we're going to go into this in more detail. We also do a second tissue sample at flag leaf. And then beyond that, right prior to harvest, after physiological maturity, we ask you to collect a whole plant sample, and that whole plant sample is what actually goes into that cardboard box. And then at harvest, there's also a grain sample that needs to be shipped in. So we're going to go through all of these things here now, but this just gives you a bit of a snapshot or a bit of a timeline, so to speak, of what to expect this growing season. We don't want to overwhelm you, and I just want to highlight, hearing from yourselves, growers who have been in this program, over the course of the entire growing season, it's a few hours of work in terms of collecting all the data and entering the agronomic information, or collecting all the samples and entering the agronomic information. So I promise you're not going to be spending days and days working away at this. It's going to be a couple hours through different points in the growing season. So the first thing that we want to do in the spring, or one of the most critical parts about the project, is really determining your test area. So there's different approaches that different growers take. Some growers select an area in the field that is most representative of their field or is most representative of their operation, and they want to get a sense of how that's performing. We have other growers that want to pick the absolute best parts of their field because their goal is to try to see how far they can push things, get the highest yield, and see what they can do with their management to get there. And then we have other growers that actually will select the poorer areas of their field. And the reason for that is they want to better understand or learn how they can bring those poorer areas up in management and improve on them. So depending on, what your goals are, what you would like to achieve, there's different approaches, I guess, that you could take in terms of the test area selection, but we leave that up to you. The one thing that we will recommend or suggest is to try to avoid, obviously, things like the headlands or, the tops of knolls and things like that. But again, in terms of what you want to get out of it, we leave that up to you, but try to get, generally speaking, for the most part, growers are selecting an area that's most representative of the field or their general wheat management. And so that area needs to be in a field that is at minimum of 10 acres. So the field has to be 10 acres, or we try to achieve it from a field that's 10 acres. But the plot itself is 1.5 to 3 acres. And so that area of the field, once things start, the snow is, going away, we want to get you guys out into the field Start looking for the wheat, assessing for breaking dormancy and for green up, and that's a good time to get out and mark your field. So we recommend that you mark your field in four corners around the whole area, and then within those four corners, we ask that you put 10 different flags or 10 different markers within that 1.5 to 3 acre block, because those flags you'll be coming back to throughout the season. So you're going to come back to that spot for your soil sample. You're going to collect soil from those 10 areas. You're going to collect your tissue samples from those 10 areas, as well as your grab sample from those 10 areas. So that's the first thing you want to do this spring before collecting any samples is mark off that area. In terms of sourcing flags, there's a couple different options. I apologize, these are a bit tailored to Canadian growers, but the IRL supplies ships anywhere. Um, there is a place called Sea French. They're in Beamsville, Ontario. They can be contacted at that phone number or that email address, and their flags go for $6.59 a flag, and they're just like a simple, it comes as a fiberglass flag, and they're really easy clip-on bright orange flags that you can snap onto them, and you can easily even just get replacement flags if necessary. And we'll make sure that you have, this is being recorded, but we'll also make sure you get this information as well after the fact. And then there's also IRL supplies. They're in Prince George, but they ship. And if you actually just Google IRL supplies, they'll pop up, and their flags go for about $8.06 a flag. The reason we're providing this recommendation is because once your wheat gets this size, you need to have a flag that is above the crop canopy. Trust me, in that first year when we were doing samples, we had fields that looked like this, where we had put out wonderful, those nice little short flags. They were nice and bright. But once the wheat got a little bit bigger, it would take us hours to try and go actually find those flags. So it's really important that you get flags that are about 6 feet tall, because you'll be able to go back and actually see and find your flags, and you won't be cursing yourself, your past self from a couple weeks prior when the wheat was small and you were using smaller flags. So again, we'll make sure that you get that information on where to collect those flags, but those are just some suggestions of places where you can find them. So that's marking off the test area. Once your test area is established, the next thing you're going to be doing is collecting a soil sample. Your soil sample is very similar to your typical soil sampling. It's going to be 6-inch cores, and we ask that you do this before any fertilizer is applied, and it just helps us try to remove any of that I guess influence there. And so what we want you to do is collect a minimum of 20 cores in that 1.5 to 3 acre area. Obviously, more is going to be a bit better. And of course, it's just really important to make sure that you're mixing that soil sample extremely well, and breaking it up nicely. And then you're going to take those cores, mix them all together. And this in Ontario and the US is very similar. Instead of it saying Honeyland, it says A&L Labs on your shipping soil sample bags. But these white soil sample bags, you just put the soil sample directly in that. And then you put that in this cardboard box. There's a very similar cardboard box if you're in the US. It's got prepaid postage on it. And the growers in Ontario, your soil sample will be going to Honeyland, and in the US, your soil samples will be going to A&L. So you don't have to do any extra labeling. You don't have to get any extra packaging. Just simply put the soil sample in that white bag, plop it into the cardboard box. That should be labeled soil sample, and you literally drop it in the mail. So for folks in Ontario, this is for Canada Post, and for the US, I believe it's US UPS, right? Or US Postal Service. For those soil samples. So just simply drop them in the mail and they'll go to the lab. When the lab is done with their analysis, they will send you the results. They'll email them to you directly. You do not need to put any of that information in CropTrack. Alex does a really excellent job. She is on top of it very quickly. Every week she gets a spreadsheet of all the soil sample results, and she uploads those into CropTrack for you. So you'll be able to see the analysis from your email PDF from the lab. But if you go into CropTrack, your results will also be uploaded for you there as well. So you don't have to worry about uploading it, but they will be there for you to view whenever you wish. For US participants, there's a bit of a unique project going on this year with Dr. Christine Sprunger and Jordan Wade from Syngenta. And they are going to, they're looking to collect some additional soil samples from US yen participants to understand what soil health indicators could be tied to wheat yield. So this would require an additional soil sample. So you would submit your regular yen soil sample to the lab. But if you are interested in taking this or participating in this an additional soil health project, you would collect another soil sample this spring, and then you'll collect a third soil sample in the same field in the fall. They will also collect some agronomic information in your wheat yield. We'll try to get all of that from the yen, from our database, and send that to them. There may be a few more pieces that they ask for, but only those who are interested in participating, they'll be contacted directly. And more information will be provided that way. But all of the results and all of the findings, the goal is to share with everyone in the yen and see what they find. But right now, the opportunity is available to just US participants. And these are some of the things that they actually include in that analysis. So in addition to what you'd get in a normal soil health test or a soil test, they're going to do some of these things a little more deeper. So if you are interested in participating in this additional soil health project, just reach out to Dennis. And Dennis will make sure that you get connected with the right people and that you get set up to get all your samples collected. Sorry, go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that we're getting our shipping boxes ready to go, and the reason our boxes haven't been mailed yet in the U.S. is because we got held up getting the return shipping for this soil health project. So every participant in the U.S. will get the soil sample boxes to sh and this in the self prepaid shipping box back to ship their soil sample back. The one thing that's different about this soil health sample is they want those collected to an 8-inch depth, not the 6-inch depth. So I would encourage everybody in the US, it won't cost you anything. The soil health sampling is kind of expensive. It's like $50 a test, and you're going to get 2 of them for free just by being in the end. So I would definitely encourage everyone to do it. You're already going to have the materials. Just make sure when you collect the soil health sample, you're collecting to an 8-inch depth, not 6-inch depth. So yeah, I hopefully we'll learn some really interesting things from this. So thanks, Joanna.
No, thank
Quick
you.
question,
And just,
Dennis.
oops, go ahead.
Quick question for Dennis. Do you want the soil samples from the same spots?
Um, yeah, the same area of the field from your yen sampling area. Yes, pull them from there, but you can't use the same set of cores because I need the cores for the soil health samples to be 8-inch depth, not 6-inch. So yeah, pull them if you can take 2 pails with you. Yeah, at each spot where you're collecting a core, do a 6-inch one, put it in one pail, do an 8-inch one, put it in a different pail.
And all of this, like the soil samples for the yen, the protocols state all of this. So if you're ever worried about, just refer back to those protocols that are in your package. And similar to the soil health project, there's going to be a protocol that is in your package that explains this too. So if you can't remember it all, don't worry, just refer back to those protocols, and it has everything listed out there in detail for you. And if you're ever unsure, also just feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to help you. So that's the soil sampling side of things. Once the soil sample is sent away, the next thing or the next timing that we're going to have to be keeping an eye on is our first tissue sample. So the first tissue sample occurs at first node, which is known as in the Zadok scale, gross H31, and on the Feek scale, it's Feek 6. And when you're collecting these samples, you want to collect the most fully emerged leaf. So the uppermost, most fully emerged leaf. If it's still tied up in that whorl, don't collect that one. Collect the one that's fully emerged out of that plant. And what you're going to want to do is collect 20 leaves from each of those 10 flags for a total of 200 leaves. In the past, we were only collecting 10 leaves, but what happened is once the lab ground that down, it just wasn't quite enough of a sample. So it's important that we do try to collect 20 leaves from each area, because it just gives the lab enough of a sample to actually break down and do an analysis on. It's quite simple. You can just go out, you can, take scissors. I prefer scissors versus a knife because it's just a nice, quick, clean cut to do there. And Dennis is going to go over this in a little bit, but there are also videos that we have on a resources page that actually goes through and shows you exactly how to do that. So you're just going to cut those leaves. Again, it's very similar in the US. You're going to get brown paper bags like this. These are the Ontario ones. They're labeled with your yen ID and they're labeled, it should say tissue sample 1, tissue sample 2. You simply put your leaves in this brown paper bag. And in Ontario, you would have gotten these 2 white envelopes. Again, they have prepaid postage. I believe we put labels on each of those also that say tissue 1, tissue 2. And you just take this brown paper bag, you put it in that envelope, it has the prepaid postage, and you just drop it in the mail, and it'll go straight to the lab. Again, in Ontario, those will go to Honeyland, and the US will go to A&L. One of the things that we wanted to mention though, and actually Mark Stubbs, who's going to jump on here from the UK, also reminded us of this yesterday, is that sometimes what can happen is if that sample sits in that envelope or that package for too long, it can actually influence your lab results. So because as we know, Canada Post and UPS don't necessarily work on the weekends, our recommendation is that if you hit gross stage 31, let's say on Friday or Thursday even, wait to collect that sample and ship it until Monday. If it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's fine. But once we get to later in the week, what happens is it could just sit in a warehouse until Monday. And so that can actually influence some of the results. So our recommendation is if you reach this stage, late Thursday, late Friday, just wait till Monday to collect it. You're not going to be far off the growth stage. It's not going to jump from growth stage 31 to 32 in 2 days. So don't stress about that. It'll still be accurate enough for us, but it would just mean that your sample's not sitting in that soggy bag over the weekend. Again, we would encourage you to check your wheat staging guide. There's some excellent photos in there that just shows what first note is. Again, there's resources on the page, and we'll try our best to communicate to you when we think fields are starting to reach that growth stage. Obviously, we've got a big geography, so it's a little bit tough, but we get there first typically in Kentucky and move north. So when we start hearing, Kentucky's reaching there, we start to keep an eye as things go on. But that's the first tissue. The other, oh, sorry.
Yeah, there's some chatter happening regarding dry or fresh samples. Can people dry the samples and then ship them?
So we ask that you don't dry the samples before you ship them. You ship them exactly as they are, and the lab will do that. So we ask that they be fresh samples if you can. Sorry, I can't see thank you.
No, that's okay.
Also on that actually is a good reminder too, similar to the soil samples, the lab will email you the results directly, and Alex, similar to the soil results, will upload them into CropCheck for you as well. I think I saw a comment there about turnaround time. They're usually pretty quick. We do ask the lab to do them like right as they get them. So for the most part, they're probably within the same week that they do them. They do them right away. We don't usually get the results till Friday. So they send us a bulk email on Fridays. So we apologize if your results were done Monday, but we don't typically get them till Friday, and then Alex gets those uploaded there on Fridays. Dennis?
Yeah, the only thing that I wanted to add there, some people collect their samples first thing in the morning when they're still dew on the leaves. And if you are doing that, just dry the dew off with paper towel. So that way you're not putting all that moisture in that bag. So
That's really good advice. Yeah, it almost would be best to try to do it like later in the day, when you don't have, any dew or moisture in the crop canopy. I know that you're all very busy, and so that's a big ask to be like go into the field at the specific time. But if you can and have the ability, yeah, that's some great advice from Dennis and Marty is try to make sure that those samples are are not soaking wet in that brown paper bag because they'll start to mold. And the lab will get a really nice surprise of a smell when it gets there. So that's the first tissue. The other thing we do ask when you go out and collect that tissue sample is to about 1 meter above your crop canopy. So again, for those who have been in the past, you should still have a meter stick, and the new folks should have received a meter stick. Above that crop canopy, using that meter stick, measure and just take a overhead photo of your canopy. Because what we use this photo for is to determine your canopy closure at first node. So you can, in crop track, Dennis will show you some of this, but you can just upload your photo there. If you're unsure, or I know internet sometimes can be a challenge for some folks, you can also feel free to email it to us and we can upload it for you. But then what we do is we actually run that photo through Canopio. And Canopio will give us a reading of what your percent canopy closure is. You can either upload the photo and just leave it there, or and we'll go in and run the photo for you. But if you're interested in doing this yourselves, right in CropTrack, we have that link there. You can just Google Canopio app or use this link. And it'll take you to the app, and all you have to do is upload your photo into it, and it'll spit out a percent canopy closure number, and then we report that in CropTrack. But again, the biggest thing for us is just that you take the picture, and if we get the picture, we can make sure that the rest of that is completed. But the goal with this is to see, are the high yielding farms achieving much higher canopy closure earlier and maximizing solar radiation capture earlier than lower yielding fields. This is a trend we've been seeing, and so we're continuing trying to monitor it. And okay, yeah, so that's a great question. So this is just one photo. Just try to take a photo that's representative of the plot. It doesn't need to be a photo at 10 different flags. It's just one photo. But again, just try to make sure that it's representative of that 1.5 to 3 acre plot. And then in terms of a drone, I mean, you can use the drone, but you're going to need to make sure that that drone is only a meter above that crop canopy. So again, it's really important to have it a meter because of just how that affects, or like how the algorithm on that app works. We need it to be a meter above the crop canopy. So once you've taken your first tissue sample, got that overhead photo, the next timing is not till a little bit later, and that's at flag leaf. So flag leaf is the last leaf to emerge prior to your head to emerging. Again, once we want to make sure that that flag leaf is fully out of that whorl. So you can see here the leaf collar is visible. And so once we have that, that means that you can collect that outermost leaf. Very similar to the first tissue sample, you're collecting 20 leaves at each flag for a total of 200. And again, just if it's a Friday, try to collect it on Monday as opposed to sending it at the end of the week. But very similar, same packaging, just use the second tissue sample bag you have, and in the second envelope you have, and it'll go to the lab. The results will be emailed to you, and we'll also upload them into CropTrack for you. So at this time, all you have to do is just collect this tissue sample. There's no photos or anything at this time. Head counts. So I know this has been a hot topic in the past. So previously we were going out, we were doing manual head counts, then we were trying to take different photos and all sorts of things. But we think we're finally at a point where we can actually just take a photo and be able to provide you with an accurate head count. So we're working with Dr. John Solik and Riley McConkey at the University of Guelph. And Riley is a grad student there who is working on developing this app where you take a picture and it just does a head count. So what we're asking you to do this year at Heading, because many of you are going out for your T3 fungicide applications at that time anyways, and we want to make sure the heads are fully emerged. So I've got a photo here on the right. If the heads are just kind of sticking through, we want to try to wait a little bit later, make sure that that peduncle is fully emerged and that head is fully emerged. to take the photo. But you're going to take an image 1/2 meter or 50 centimeters above the crop canopy and just take a photo of it, similar to what you would do at the earlier growth staging. Again, this is just one photo, and it can be uploaded into Crop Track under the growth stage 60 there, that heading timing. The one thing with this, though, that's a little bit tricky, and you would see this in your protocols, is that it's really important to have your phone camera set to this 1-to-1 aspect ratio. There are different ways of doing this on an iPhone versus a Android. So we put some instructions in your protocols with screenshots on how to do this exactly. If you're unsure, please again reach out, but it should be quite simple. And again, there's detailed protocols on how to set your phone to 1-to-1 aspect ratio in the protocols that were sent to you. Again, just make sure it's representative of the field. Take that photo, and then at the end of the season, we're hoping to be able to generate an accurate heads per meter square using that photo. And eventually, the idea is that this app would be available to anyone to use, and be able to do some of these measurements themselves in the field. So that's new this year. So you don't have to do head counts. There's no putting a meter square or a meter stick down and counting heads on both sides or in multiple areas. So you get some relief from that. But we do ask that you please take this photo, because that's going to be the way that we get your head counts this year. Again, we'll send reminders about this to make sure that everyone is aware. But that's just a bit of a new process this year for head counts. So hopefully there's a little bit of excitement amongst the group that you don't have to go out and do these head counts. So once we get past our tissue sampling and our head count timing, the next thing, the critical thing for you as producers and agronomists to do is collect the grab sample. So the grab sample occurs after physiological maturity, but just prior to harvest. So we mention this because in the past, we have seen some samples come in where the peduncle and the plants are still a bit green. So we just really want to make sure or remind you that it's really important that you see this peduncle or this upper part of the stem just below the head must be yellow, or like that nice golden color that's behind Dennis in his photo there today. Behind me, you actually can still see some green. That's too early to collect a grab sample. So Dennis's background photo right now is much better than mine, but it's really critical that you have a nice gold color. And ideally, it would actually be just prior to harvest. We know that that's not possible always because you're all very busy people. You're trying to harvest multiple fields, and maybe your yen field is the last field, or you just don't have time. And you want to get it done before you get harvesting, but it's really critical that you make sure it's done after physiological maturity when it's turned gold and it's no longer green. In your packages, you would have received these brown paper bags. They may or may not say grab sample on them, and then you should have received anywhere from 6 to 8 zip ties. And what we get you to do is collect 100 shoots. I know shoots isn't always a familiar term, so I also put in stems there. You want to go to each of those 10 flags, and you're going to collect 10, just randomly select 10 shoots, clip them right at the base of the soil. It's really critical that it's right at the base of the soil. And you're going to collect 10 shoots from each of the 10 flags for a total of 100 shoots or stems. The reason to collect it right at the base of the soil is so that we actually measure the stem length and the head length, count spikelets. We do a lot of processing with it, but it gives us an idea of what your actual crop height was and gives us a better accurate estimate of what your biomass is without the roots. So it's really, really critical that you cut that right at the soil surface. Once you collect your 100 shoots, what we ask you to do, and you can see as an example photo that this grower submitted here, is you can split your 100 shoots in half, or some people like to split them in 3 different bundles, and you put the heads right in that brown paper bag. And what that does is it keeps those heads from shattering or breaking in shipping. And then you want to put a zip tie right around the base of those heads. And then we also suggest that you put some zip ties down the stems. And again, it's just to help with breakage so that they stay nicely intact so that we can do the measurements and weigh them and thresh them. And you're going to simply put those samples in that grab sample package, just like this here on the right, this photo that you can see the grower put that in there. And you're going to fasten a label to it to the outside. For growers in the US, you're going to get a FedEx label and you'll be able to ship these via FedEx, and those are going to go to Dennis. For Ontario, we are actually going to email you your Pure Later shipping label in June. We send those just to make sure they get to everyone, they don't get lost. And all you have to do is print that label and tape it to the outside of that cardboard box and then ship it back to us, and then we will do the rest. So don't worry, you don't have a label if you're in Ontario, we'll ship those to you. And again, if you have any questions on this, we have some people who just ship it in 2 bundles. They'll put 50 stems per brown paper bag. But hopefully everybody got 3 to 4 brown paper bags in their package. So if you don't feel like you can do that in 2 bundles, feel free to separate that out in more bundles if you need to. The most critical part is that it just stays intact in shipping. So hopefully, I don't know if there's any questions on that, but hopefully everyone is straightforward there. Again, this is all in your protocols, but we will also send reminders to you throughout the season about when to collect this, how to collect this. And we also have some resource videos on the Great Lakes CN website that shows you how to do exactly all of this. I'm sorry, my mouse here. Okay. So then the last sample, but not the least sample, this is probably one of the most important samples, is your grain sample. So your grain sample is to be collected right when you harvest your test area. So you're gonna harvest your test area and weigh it off. The biggest thing is just don't clean the sample, don't dry it, don't just collect the sample as it is right out of the field. We put there about 1.5 kilograms is what we need, but you would have all been shipped a Ziploc bag that would have been labeled grain sample, have your yen ID. You can see this photo here on the top. That's about how full we typically see them. They're going to have to fit in the shipping box, so don't fill them to the point where they're not going to fit in that shipping box. But for Ontario growers, you would have got a Canada Post prepaid shipping box. It would have either looked like this or it was a extra small one. And that box already has the shipping label on it. You'll see it's going to be shipped to SGS in Hamilton. And you're going to also notice that it says it's from GFO as the sender. And the reason for that is if there's anything that goes wrong in the mail, it'll get sent to the GFO office and we can make sure it gets to the lab. But Ontario, that's going to go to SGS in Hamilton. And in Michigan, all your samples are going to be sent back to Dennis at the MSU Mason Research Farm using a prepaid FedEx box. But again, your samples all go into that Ziploc bag. Just plop it in that prepaid shipping box and it'll go to the appropriate place. Similar to the tissue and the soil samples, if it's going to sit for a little bit, make sure that there's holes poked into the Ziploc bag so it doesn't get wet and moldy and impact the sample. Make sure that there's some air breathing in there, but try to ship this sample as soon as you harvest it. Don't leave it on your bench in the shop for 2 weeks. We ask that you please make sure that if you collect that sample, you get it shipped in the mail as quickly as you can. And then also when you're collecting your grab sample, you're going to be doing your yield verification of the plot. So for this, again, because we need 1.5 acres to 3 acres, we actually recommend that you measure off your plot prior to even putting out your flags to make sure you actually have 1.5 acres to 3 acres. But coming at harvest, you're going to have to remeasure that. And we ask that you actually provide us with the length and the width of your harvest area. You can weigh it off using a scale or weigh wagon. We just ask no monitors because, if they haven't been calibrated right or, something is off, it's really difficult to get accurate yields from that. So we please ask that you use a weigh wagon or a local scale. If you need any help with this, because we do ask you work with a third-party verifier to actually verify your yield. So they're going to help you verify your length, your width, the weight. But if you don't have access to a weigh wagon or scale, just reach out to us and we can support you in making sure either bringing you a weigh wagon or making sure that we connect you with someone locally that has a scale that we can help you get that weight off. Your yield as also part of your yield verification form. Yes, we send that grain sample and we get your test weight and moisture. But again, just to kind of verify things, because in shipping things could change a little bit, we ask that you just do like a quick test weight and moisture test. You can just use like a bench tester, or your local elevator will have a quick test that they can typically use, and just provide us with your test weight and your moisture at harvest as well, because this will also help us calibrate everyone's yields back to a 13.5% moisture if we know what your actual moisture was at harvest. All your yield verification forms have all of this information on it, clearly laid out, and it has the emails on it. But for Ontario, you can send the yield forms back to myself, and we're going to resend everyone their yield verification forms in June as well, along with your Pure Leader shipping label. Again, we were finding some people were losing this or not able to find it, so we're going to resend it this year with your shipping labels in June. And then in the US, you'll send your yield verification forms back to Dennis, and we'll make sure all your yield data gets entered. And it's just a way for us to check, especially for those that are trying to achieve the highest yields. We just do this to make sure that there's checks and balances and everyone in the program can be confident, that this is fair, so to speak. So that's yield verification. The other piece that is equally important as all of the sample collection, obviously collect your agronomic data, but what is really, really critical about the agronomic data is these growth stages. So these growth stages, it's not just to give us an idea of when your crop reached a certain stage. These growth stages are actually used to model your yield potential. So the more accurate these dates are, the more accurate our estimate of what your yield potential on your farm will be. So right now, the first stage that everybody should have recorded was when your wheat actually emerged. And it's critical to remember this is not the same as your planting date. So this is when the wheat actually emerged out of the soil, and you could actually see that plant there. That date needs to be recorded in crop track. So hopefully we've kept track of that. If not, we try to estimate that a bit with growing degree days. But the challenge with that is that soil temperature also plays a role in emergence and soil moisture. And this past fall, as we know, it was quite dry. And so even though emergence typically would be quite quick, it was slow this past fall because of how dry. So it's difficult for us to even estimate your emergence date just based on GDDs because we didn't have soil moisture. So if you can try to recall your emergence date, that's going to be critical. And then we also ask for these other ones. So your first tissue is on first node, so we ask you to determine when that date was. Same with flag leaf. And then we also ask you to let us know when anthesis starts or heading is completed. And then similar to physiological maturity, that's when that plant turns from green to yellow. And it's very critical. This is not the same as your harvest date. Your harvest date tends to be quite a bit later. We want to know when that plant actually reached physiological maturity. So these are some dates that we have to keep track of. And again, this is just the more accurate these dates are, the more accurate we can provide modeling data to you. I would encourage you, the wheat staging guide is an excellent resource. We will continue to put reminders out. But if you're out in the field and you see a date, make sure you record it, and we'll put that back into crop track. And oh yeah, I see. Yeah. So thanks for that comment, David. Yeah. So David Berg there in the chat just said his wheat took about a month to come up because it was a desert for a month. So that's yeah. Thank you for that comment. So we would have probably in that month had very sufficient GDD accumulations for that wheat to emerge, but unfortunately it's very difficult to estimate because of soil moisture. So we ask that you please try to recall that as best you can, if possible. So Dennis is going to get into crop track stuff here shortly, but when you do get in, that is probably one of the things that you could enter first is that emergence date from this past fall. As I mentioned, we will send lots of reminders to you throughout the season on what should be coming up, what activities that you should be, in the field or keeping an eye on in the field. Hopefully everybody received this already from Alex. So this was just our kickoff for this year to send you a link to this meeting. If you are signed up and have not received one of these emails yet, please let us know and we'll make sure that you are added to the list. Just to give you an idea, I took a screenshot from my envelope or my inbox, not my envelope. In the past, you would have got a reminder that said, I think it's a GFO Great Lakes Yen update. We actually put Alex's name in there now so that hopefully you would recognize that a little bit more and know that that is a communication that you need to address. So this is what it'll look like when you get any Yen update. It'll say Alex's name there. And then it'll have that Great Lakes Yen update. So just keep an eye if you see an email like that. That's probably got information related to upcoming meetings, or it'll have information just with reminders in terms of like you need to get out in your field and sample for this. Or Dennis and I also try to put in some agronomic information, tips, tools, things to keep an eye out for. For example, if stripe rust comes, we might put like an alert out or something like that. So check your email because it's a great place for resources. So before we jump into crop track, just some things that we could all be starting here now that we're getting into things is our field and test area selection. That's the first thing we're going to want to do. Those in Kentucky could probably already start doing that. That should be the first thing you do this spring. You can this week, starting today, activate your crop track account. And once you get into crop track, the first thing you want to do is actually add your field. Even if you don't have your test area in that field selected, but you've selected a field, you can add your field. If you're working with an agronomist, you can add your agronomist. And then we also ask that you enter your background, planting, and grow stage information, which Dennis is going to go through. But that's some things to kind of keep an eye out for. So hopefully, I know that's a lot of information that we just threw at you, but hopefully, it just gives you a bit of an idea of what to expect this coming season. And so before we jump into our crop track demo from Dennis, I just wanted to without this program or without our sponsors, this program would really not be possible. And with them, we're able to do what we currently do. And so we wanted to just provide a couple of sponsors with an opportunity to introduce themselves. So first up, we're going to play a video here from CCAN, and then Matthew is going to jump on and just introduce himself. So I am going to try and play this video.
Earth will be home to nearly 10 billion people by 2050. Canadian agricultural exports will be more critical than ever before, especially high-demand crops like wheat, barley, oats, flax, soybeans, and pulses. And it all starts with the seed. But how do Canadian farmers stay competitive with the best varieties for their farm? The answer is having many, many local seed companies who select, grow, and process the best seed for each region. There are over 600 of these that together form CCAN. So CCAN is not a seed company, but an association of independent businesses. By collecting a small royalty across millions of acres, CCAN has returned over $100 million to plant breeders. Together, CCAN members fund development of new varieties in partnership with universities and public breeding programs, ensuring that farmers have the best genetics developed in Canada for Canada, genes that truly fit their farms. But CCAN also works with international partners who develop new traits vital to making modern agriculture more efficient and sustainable. Combining these technologies with the best genetics is key to our collective future. And it has made CCAN the largest supplier of certified seed in Canada. Since CCAN operates as a not-for-profit, both farmers and plant breeders know that when a variety is distributed through CCAN, they're dealing with a partner that maximizes the value they receive. That's what makes CCAN Canada's seed partner.
So Matthew, did you just want to jump on it and introduce yourself? Oh, there you go.
For sure. So I think it was a little jittery, but I think you could hear the video. So I'll be short here. I'm Matt Hoyer. Recently started with CCAN. So I'm based out of London, Eastern Product Development Lead, and just really excited about what you discussed here this morning, Joanna, and what the Yen project is all about. We are a platinum sponsor, so we're really proud to be a part of that. Um, Additionally, proud to support the wheat breeding program at the U of G with Helen Booker and partnering with the GFO as well there too. So with that, just yeah, really excited about what's going on with Yen and proud to be a part of it.
Thanks so much, Matt. And yeah, if anyone ever has any questions for CCAN or any is interested in anything, please reach out to Matt. And thank you to CCAN. And oh, sorry. And next, another sponsor we're extremely grateful for is Syngenta. And I would like to there's Joanna, invite Joanna Wallace to introduce herself.
Good morning, everybody. Just to introduce myself, I'm Joanna Wallace. I am a territory sales rep with Syngenta in mostly here on Perth in Ontario, and really grateful for this chance to partner and work with the Yen program and GFO on this. We have seen such a great improvement to Ontario wheat yields in the last few years, and Yen is a big part of that. And yeah, what we've learned, the learnings that have come out of this is really that, with increased biomass comes the greater yield potential. But with increased biomass also comes management factors. We're happy and proud to provide some management tools for that in our stack cereal program. Anything from fungicides like Miravis Ace and Miravis Neo to plant growth regulators like Modus and biologicals like Megafol and Yieldon. And really, I would encourage you, if you're interested, getting out there in the fields. I mean, super excited this year for Ontario wheat fields because everything under this amount of snow looks amazing out there. Hopefully it comes out amazing as the snow melts. And I would encourage you to get out there earlier and do some stem counts, get an estimate of where you're going to be and how you're going to manage that crop for the biggest yields, because I think this year could be Ontario's biggest yield yet, for sure. So just thank you for including us and the chance to sponsor.
Great. Thank you so much, Joanna. Big thank you to both Matthew and Joanna for being here today. And again, for CCAN and Syngenta for being huge supporters of this program and their involvement in with that. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dennis, and Dennis is going to talk about our beloved crop track. Maybe beloved is a stretch.
It's in the eye of the beholder, right? So yeah, so CropTrack is the platform where we collect all of the data. So for those of you that are new in the program, Joanna's mentioned a number of the data collection points in terms of like samples that we collect, and all that data gets stored in this database. We also collect all your planting information, fertilizer applications, crop chemical protections, and the growth stages as we to track the progress of the crop through the season, and a tremendous amount of information. So all of that information goes into CropTrack. So CropTrack can be accessed in a couple of ways. You can log in on the website on your laptop computer or desktop computer. But there is also an app that you can download for iOS and Android devices as well. And so they operate a little bit different, but they still collect all the same information. So go ahead to the next one, Joanna. So this is what it looks like. So if you just type crop tracking or something like that into the App Store or the Google Play Store, there are a few different apps. Make sure that looks like this green logo that looks like kind of the plant. So depending on what device you have, Make sure you're downloading the right one, because I have had people call me say, I can't get connected to my data or enter anything. And yeah, it's because they downloaded the wrong app. So when you go, look for this green plant looking icon. That's the that's what you're looking for in the App Store when you go to download the app. So I think the next slide, yeah. So for those of you that are returning users, you can just simply log in. You don't need to do anything different. If you have forgotten your password, can't remember it, or whatever, there is that link in green there at the bottom, right under the where you log in the email address and where you type the password. If you tap on that, it'll take you to a place where you can reset your password. So if you want to do that, that would be great. For new users, you will get an email from ICT Crop Track that'll have a link for you to click, and it takes you pretty much the same place, only this time it'll say create your password. You have to type it a second time to make sure you're typing the same password twice, and then you'll be set to log into the system. So I think the next slide is yeah. Oh, one thing that before I actually take you to the website, if you are using a mobile device, we have to sync this because the mobile devices work offline. And the only way, so you type your data in on your phone or your tablet or whatever, and if you don't hit that sync button in that upper right corner, if you can point to that, Joanna, yeah, there you go, perfect. You have to tap that after you've entered data, and that's what sends the data that you've put on your mobile device up to the website so that we can see it. If you never tap that sync button, we will never see the data that you've typed in on your phone. So you got to make sure you do that every time you use it. And if it's been a while since you've logged into Crop Track or done anything on your mobile device, I would tap that button first before you start entering data. We have had growers that they'll start doing something on their phone and then they'll log in on the website. And so if you've typed data in on the website, it won't show up on your phone. And if you haven't synced from your phone, it won't show up on the website. So to make sure you don't double enter things, always tap that sync button. That's very important to do. I think the next is actually sharing my screen, isn't it, Joanna?
Yes, there's just a few. I didn't know if you want to do this now. In the chat, Andy asked, is the phone app still okay, or do we need to update it?
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, good point. So the phone app is okay. What we have done is we have deleted all the device keys. And so if you try to log in, it's going to ask you for a device key. So those of you that I guess I would call legacy users or that used the app last year, Joanna has emailed you your device key already. So that should be in your inbox. You just copy that device key, put it in there and log in. And when you do that, it'll ask you to re-download the database. So you just have to follow the prompts and do that on your mobile device. You shouldn't have to reinstall it. For new growers or growers that want to use the app or try it for the first time, we will have to send you a device key. So you need to let us know that you want to do that and that we'll do that. So I would do that probably by emailing Alex, or you could email Joanna or I, and we can get you set up that way as well. And so you'd have to first download the app, and then you would plug in that device key, sync the database, and then you'll be ready to roll. Oh, and Jonathan, that's a good comment about you got to have good cell service or Wi-Fi connection because downloading that database takes quite a bit of time. And so you'll see on your screen, you'll see a bunch of lines that'll start appearing. It's downloading this database, this set of parameters, and so on. But it takes a long time to get it all. So yeah, it's best to have a good connection when you're doing that. Okay, I think maybe I'll go ahead and share my screen, and then then I'll get started.
There's just another quick question there. Can only one device be synced if two people are working together on the same field then?
On the same field, um, yeah, so I think you should be able to use both devices, but syncing will be critical. Because if two people are entering data on two devices, if one enters a fertilizer application and the other one didn't realize it, and both of you end up entering it and then you sync, that'll put double both of those applications will show up even though it's the same one. So if you have two people using the app on the same field, you just got to be real careful to make sure you guys don't accidentally enter the same thing twice. So one of the things that I wanted to, I've had quite a few in the chat, private messages back and forth with people. They had questions about this Canopio app. To get the updated version of Canopio, if you already have it, and if you don't have it, just on your phone, don't do this on the web, but do this on your phone. Go to canopioapp.com. And then when you get there on your phone, notice this downloads section. You can get your iOS, Android. For me, I tried the Android one and it didn't work. It did not update the app because the take photo button wasn't working. I could have, if I had a picture on my phone, I could import it into Canopio, but I couldn't actually take a picture from it. So click on this Android APK, and what that'll do is that'll download the install file, and that worked to update the app. And I have the most latest version of Android on my phone, and everything was working fine. So this is how I would suggest. So on your device, open a browser and go to canopioapp.com and then go to the download here. Don't try to find it in the App Store or the Google Play Store because they're like imitation versions, and it's really hard to find this exact app, the one that works. So I just wanted to point that out. And then the other thing that I wanted to pull up on several of the slides that Joanna has put up, there's been links to help videos. If you go to greatlakesyen.com, that's our web page, and then you click on this participant login. Yeah, for me, it didn't ask for a password because I've already done this, but it should pop up a window that'll ask you for a password. And that's GLYEN 2025. And I'll try to type that in the chat box here right now. You have to sign in order to get access to it because it's not open to the public. So I just put in the chat the password. So down here you have access to all the protocols. There's a checklist of things that you have to do. The harvest verification form is here, how to understand your plant tissue, and a bunch of other information. But then here's all of the videos on how to enter stuff into crop track. We got information on entering background information, crop protection, fertilizer, and so on. There's entering planting instructions, resetting your password, how to set up your field and test area, sample collection instructions, soil test instructions, and so on. So all of that information is here on the website. And I just wanted to make sure you were aware that it's there. And another thing you might want to check out is this interactive dashboards. If you click on the dashboards, there's interactive data. This is instructions on how to use it up at the top, but I'll let this load here and I'll just show you quickly. So it's got information in here and you can interact with it. So for example, maybe I only want to see the 24 year. It changes it to just the 24. So you can interact with it in here. You can look by regions. So if you want to say, well, I want to know what it is in Michigan only, you can see the data changes based on how you interact with the data. So next I wanted to actually get into crop track. So you'll want to bookmark this website, and I'll go ahead and put this in the chat box because you got to make sure crop track works with a number of different companies, and you got to use this URL in order to get to us. I'm going to put in my username and password. And so you hit enter and then you gotta, yep, it'll load up.
Always happens. Was that unplanned, I'm assuming?
What's that? Oh, sorry. So once you get in here, the first time you log in, there's only two things that you have access to. So many of you added an agronomist when you signed up for the program. But if you didn't type, and those that did sign up an agronomist, they're already in here and they already have access to help you enter data and whatnot. But if you didn't type in an agronomist and you want to, you can click on this, we call these work lists. You can click on the work list and like, so this is my farm here, MI099. So I can open this form and then I can say, yes, I want my agronomist to have permission to access my account. So I would click on yes. I can type in the person. And then I don't know off the top of my head your email address at yen.com. I'll just type that. And then do you want the agronomist to be included as a recipient for all communications? And I'm going to say yes. And then I would hit the save button up here in the right. So that's a way to add an agronomist if you didn't already add them when you signed in. So I'm going to click on the crop track logo up here to go back to the main page. So I've already done this. Now I want to add a field. That's the first thing that you do. So you click on that and so your asset will show up here. So because I use this as a demo, I have set myself, I can add 5 fields. Each of you will only add 1. There's a couple that are going to do 2 fields this year, but for the vast majority, it'll be 1 field. So you click on open form again, and it'll open up the page. So it's got some information up at the top, where the asset's located. This is just background database information. It'll be our report year will be 2025.
Dennis, am I supposed to be able to see your screen?
Oh, are you not seeing
Yeah.
the screen?
I can see it.
Okay, maybe it's just me.
Okay.
I just see Dennis.
Oh, okay. Can everybody else see my screen?
It's all good. Yep, presentation's still there.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, we can see your screen, so.
Okay, good. All right, so this is a place here. Do you want to enter crop track or enter data in crop track using a mobile device? If you want to do this, this is one way of letting us know. You can also just email us. So if I could check this box and say yes, and then I could, you know, if you type yes here, we will send you a device key. Then we ask you, has this field been in the end previously before? I'm going to say no because this is a new field. And the field ID is chosen for you automatically. You can't type anything in here. And I'm going to give this field a name. And I'm joking because I would absolutely not have the top yield winner. But anyway, you can name the field whatever you want. And then you have to add the center point of the field. We use this GPS coordinate to bring in weather data. So click on this little icon over here on the right. Then it brings up a map. And so I live in a little town called Hastings. So I'm going to go out. I'm just zooming in here now. And I'm going to find my field. And my field is right here. So now you click on select and I'm going to add a point. And then notice I get crosshairs instead of the other icon. And I can say, this is my field. And it labels it top yield winner for me. And then I'm going to hit apply. And it's circling. And then I hit the save button here. And then I have added my field. We are going to go into more detail in on how to enter data in here. We've got 2 different meetings coming up. That'll be a little bit later on in the slide. But so now I've added my field in here, and I'm going to click on the crop track logo to take me back to the main page. Another way you can get to the main page is by clicking on, we call these three lines like the hamburger icon. You can get there by going to work lists. That's another way of just navigating to it. You can see the two work lists show up here. One thing that you can also do is you can filter here. So notice there are some different options here. You can turn these on and off, whatever you want to do. So until you get, there we go. So it takes a minute for all the rest of these to populate. And I'm going to go to that home page because I like the look of that. So we've labeled these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. This is sort of the order that you'll enter data. So adding the field is the first thing you want to do. Let's go ahead and I can get some background information in on that field. Notice my field is now called top yield winner, like I called it, and this is not done. So whenever I see not done, I know I have work to do here. I'm going to open the form. I'll go in here. And so the first question is, what was the previous crop? So I'll hit the drop down arrow, and last year it was soybean. So I'll grab soybean. Previous crop 2 years. So the year before that, it was corn grain. And then crop 3 years ago, it was wheat. So I'll go down here and select wheat. Now, if you have a crop that's not in the list, if you hit the pencil icon, I can type in faba bean or whatever it might be. And so that's a way, if it's not in this drop down list, that's a way of getting your crop that you had in there. Next, it'll ask me for the cultivation strategy. So I'll hit the drop down arrow. For me, it was no-till, but we do have these tillage, different tillage amounts that are different, that are more aggressive. So, and it's based on residue cover. So conservation tillage would be greater than 30% residue cover. Minimum tillage would be 15 to 30% residue. And then conventional tillage, there's a lot less residue there. So I'm just going to select no-till. Have cover crops been used in the last 3 years? I'm going to say yes. And then it asked me to select the cover crop. So I hit the drop down arrow and I put out rye, clover, in oats. Where is it? Oh, right there. So notice I clicked cereal, rye, clover, and oats, and that pops it in here for me. And then do I plan to plant a cover crop after wheat this year? And my answer is going to be yes. I'm going to frost seed clover in. So I click yes there, and then it pops up another box where I can type in clover or check clover. Next question, was there manure organic amendments that were applied in the crop? And I'm going to say no, because I didn't have any. And then I'm at the bottom of my form. So I hit save, and then I'm done. And when I get back to the previous window, it should tell me done instead of not done. There, see, my form status changed to done. So that tells me that my background information is all plugged in. So I can go to the planting form here next. Another way of getting to the planting form is go back to your home page, and then you can click on planting here. It does the same thing. And then see, this form is not done. So I can open this form and enter data. And so it's hopefully not too difficult to use this. I'll just quickly enter some stuff in here. I planted 1,250,000 seeds per acre. Oh, and I didn't get the right number of zeros in there. Oh, this is seeding date. I'm sorry. So I planted September 28th. So I'll go back to September right there. All right, here's my seeding depth. I planted 1.5 inches deep. And if you're using, metric units, you can select those here. Seeding rate, there's my 1,250,000 seeds per acre. Was it bin run? I planted certified. What class of wheat? It's soft red. So I select that out of the menu. Next, I select what company did it come from. Mine was an Agramax. So, and then, so what this does is by drilling soft red and selecting Agramax, now the variety, it only lists the soft red winter wheats from that company. So mine was Agramax 473. Which the following best describes your drill or planter? I have a air seeder. So it's a John Deere air seeder. So I select that out of that menu. What are the row width? This one is on 7.5. The next one will be a 5-inch row spacing. And then, but it's 7.5 for now. And then I choose the seed treatment that was on the seed. Hit select. And then I am at the bottom of my form. So I hit save. And this is how we enter data into CropTrack. So I think, did you want me to go into the reporting growth stages, Joanna? Yeah, okay. So,
Yes, please.
all right. So it's important to do the growth stages, and notice it says it's awaiting growth stage 10. So I don't even have my emergence date in here. So try to stay on top of that. As I enter stuff in here, that progress bar will update and change. So the only thing I know, because we haven't reached our second growth stage, we're not at feet 6 yet. So the only date I can really enter right now is this one. And so remember, I planted on September 28th. I planted on this date, but it took a long time because it was so dry. It didn't emerge until the 18th of October. So that's quite a long time. So I'm going to enter the 18th of October. That's really the only one I can enter for now because I don't know these stages yet. When I do get to feet 6, this is where you would upload the image. I'm just going to show you an example of just how to do that real quick. Camera uploads. Where's Canopio? Here's my Feek 6 image. I'd upload that here. Hit the upload button. And then now I have my, where is it? Yeah, so it shows that I've got an image right here. Okay, so that's how you would upload an image. But I'm done in here for now because I don't have any more growth stages. So I'm going to hit save. And once it's saved, you can go back to the home page. And then you're ready to enter other applications and information in here. So now I've got soil and tissue documentation in here. That would be soil test and tissue test results that you could look at. So here's where now I could filter out here and say, well, I don't want any of this stuff. I don't want to see the lab results just yet. I only want to worry about my data collection. So that just hides that stuff in here to make it a little bit cleaner for you. But if you want to see it, just hit that filter button and come back in here and say, no, I want to see this information, hit apply, and then that stuff shows up here now. So Joanna, was there anything else you wanted to throw in here?
I don't think so right now. So did you mention about crop protection?
Oh, no, I did not mention about crop protection. So there's something going on with this form that's not working correctly. It'll allow you to open it up and notice I have 0 number of applications to date. I don't have anything entered yet. And so when I open the form here, I'm going to get an error at the bottom. It shows up in red. So you can't do anything. It's a blank screen. It's a problem. The engineers are working on it. When we get it fixed, we'll let everybody know.
Perfect. And then there's a couple of things in the chat. So I think maybe we should address it out loud versus just in the chat. So there was a question about, is there local weather stations we can choose from? It would need almost need local knowledge to input weather station that's closest. So I guess on that piece, So we're not so concerned, and the only time we use the weather data is actually for the crop modeling. And what's actually more critical for the crop modeling is the soil available water. So understanding your soil texture and the available water in your soil is more critical. We've done some comparisons looking at all sorts of different weather data sets to the data set that we're using, and it does not greatly influence the modeling at all. What is more critical is the soil available water. So we're going to continue to use the crop track weather data set at this point, but we are going to continue to tweak the soil available water side of things, and that's something Josh had just mentioned actually at the wrap up. So that's from the weather. Then the next question is, how far back do you want manure application? And so I believe there's just a question there that asks, have you used it in the last 2 to 3 years? But what we would really like to see is if you put manure in your wheat crop for this growing season, that will be added under the fertilizer applications. It's a bit tricky to enter those. So if you're unsure about how to enter that, what we do is we add it as a dry custom blend. And then we just put the amounts based on your either your manure analysis or what we'll use as textbook values from OMAFRA or from Michigan State, lab results. But if you are unsure about the manure, just feel free to ask us and we can help you enter that. But the background information just wants to know if you've applied it in the last. There's a specific question there. I think it just asked you if you've applied it in the last 2 years, in the last 3 years. Yes, no. But if you applied it in your actual crop, we do ask that you apply that as a fertilizer application. Anything to add on that, Dennis?
Sorry, no. I was just trying to answer some questions in the chat here. So
Okay.
did you answer the question about the center of the field or the center of the end plot for the point?
I just said center of the field because it's more critical for us to actually know where the field is to be able to pull the right weather data. So it's as long as we know that that's the field that your end plot is in, that's more critical because also you could be adding your field now and decide to move your end plot within the field, which is totally fine. It's just critical for us to know the actual location of the field itself. That's the purpose for that one.
So yeah, the only thing that point is for is to bring in solar radiation and rainfall and temperature data. So likely moving it from one side of the field to the other is not going to have a huge impact on that data.
Next question is, where do they enter the amount of water for irrigation?
Yeah, I don't believe we have that entered in there yet. Although that's on our list to get done. So Mark, when we get that done, we'll
we have a template.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll let you know.
If you did irrigate, also just let us know because we won't know that you guys irrigated. So if you irrigated, let us know. We'll make sure we get the template to you because that will go into account into the modeling. Crop check, can changes be made after saving?
So yes, you can edit after you save. And it will ask you if you want to override the data. And you just have to say yes. So before you hit save, just review that everything is on the screen the way you want it. But yeah, you can, one that's done, you can go back in and change. The only thing you can't change once is the add field. Once you've added your field, you can't go in and edit that.
Next question, do you want fertilizer applied spring 2024 before soybeans or just fertilizer added to wheat planting?
Wheat planted, just fertilizer, like starter fertilizer when you plant your wheat crop. So we have some growers in the south that double crop, and so they'll put on enough P and K for the soybean crop, this double crop. I know that impacts our data a little bit, but I don't know if there's a really good way to address that because the fertilizer is there technically, and I don't know how much putting that extra amount on for the second crop is going to impact the wheat crop, but just report what you're putting on. even if you got the double crop scenario.
Any tips for locating the area to take picture for head count?
So for the head count, the biggest thing is getting a uniform area. Walk through your test plot area, the 1 to 3 acres. We know fields are variable, and depending on the field, you might have some really good spots and some not so good spots. You want to avoid that variability. You want to pick an area that you feel is a good representation of that 1.5 to 3 acre area, and then snap your picture there.
And then last one there is, do you want the Canopio image uploaded or the RGB photo?
You could upload both if you want to, because you can upload more than one photo. The actual RGB image is probably the most critical one, because for those that can't get the Canopio app to work, and I know they've had some trouble, and this is the first time on my phone that I've been able to actually get it to work right in a couple of years. So if you are having trouble with it, just take the photo and upload the photo, because we can download that photo, and on the web we can run it through Canopio and get that percent canopy cover. So the RGB image is the most important. But it's sometimes it's cool to have the processed image to use as well in like presentations. So yeah, if you have it and it's not hard for you to upload it, yeah, please do.
Okay.
Dennis, Joanna, I saw one other question. I'm not sure if it was answered. Margaret was asking, can only one device be synced if two people are working together on the same field?
I'm not 100% sure on that. My understanding would be that they should be able to have two devices, but we may have to run that by Bryce with CropTrack before I can give a 100% sure answer. I think you can, but I
Sorry, was the question if you can have two devices for one farm?
Yeah, I didn't really say, but it said can only one device be synced if two people are working in the field? And I would recommend probably you need to have two devices, correct? And each person work with a single device with their own login credentials for that, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So if you have two devices or you have two people, the people will be individually linked to that farm. We would just have to send you a device key for each device. So Mark, hopefully you don't mind me using it as an example, but Mark has two devices. So I sent him a device key for each of his devices, and he can access he could access the same field at the same time. As Dennis had previously mentioned, the critical part is making sure that you're syncing those devices. And I wouldn't want, say on your cell phone to be entering a fertilizer application and also enter a fertilizer application on the other device at the same time, because it might overwrite each other. So if you're entering, say, background information in one thing and a fertilizer application at the same time, you can do that. But people can definitely access it on two devices. You just need two separate device keys, a device key for each device. So
Yep.
hopefully that clarifies that.
And Mark, thanks for the comment. So yeah, you say it works with two, and that makes sense because we do have some growers and their agronomists that both have access. I'm not sure of ones that are both using mobile devices. So, but yeah, thanks for letting us know.
Oh yeah, I see. Now he put it in the chat. Sorry, I fell behind here. And then there was a question there from Nick Stockman. For the head count picture, can a regular camera picture be used? Don't have a smartphone, or do I just do the physical count? So Nick, for you, we might have to come help you take that picture because it's very critical. Unless your camera, like a regular camera can be used, but it has to be set to a 1-to-1 aspect ratio. So if your camera has a setting to put it to that 1-to-1 aspect ratio, you can definitely use it. If it doesn't have that ability, we can support you in taking that photo.
Yeah. Basically, the image has to be square instead of some of the new pictures. They make it more like, I don't know, wider than it is tall. The wider and tall throws off the calculations. It has to be a square image.
And there is some
Oh,
documentation on that to help everybody as well. So
yeah. Don't worry, Nick. That's not beyond your technical expertise. I didn't know either, so I had to go through this process. Okay, but keep the questions coming. And again, if you have any questions, let us know. I see people are emailing me already, trying to get them hooked up, and so I'll continue to do that today. So just keep emailing those. But before we jump, or Dennis continues on with some of the resources, we just want to thank another sponsor. And I'm just going to play this video. And I apologize, I didn't realize it was choppy on your end because it's showing on mine fine, but hopefully this plays okay on your end as well.
Anvil is the next generation nitrogen stabilizer for urea and UAN, featuring the patented active ingredient Duramide. Anvil provides growers with a better option for protection against ammonia volatilization. But how exactly does it work? To understand how Anvil works, you will first need to understand a bit about ammonia volatilization and the urease inhibitors' modes of action. Ammonia volatilization occurs when urease enzymes break the urea molecules into ammonia gas, a process called hydrolysis. During this process, up to 40% of nitrogen fertilizer is susceptible to volatilization loss. There are multiple factors that can contribute to the amount of nitrogen that can be lost: soil moisture, warm temperatures, wind, soil acidity, and high crop residues. Urease inhibitors, such as Anvil, can be utilized to control the gaseous loss of nitrogen, allowing time for the fertilizer to be incorporated into the soil by moisture. Once on the soil, NBPT tightly binds to the active site of the enzyme, thus blocking the hydrolysis of urea. NBPT degrades and releases from urease, which can then pair again with either NBPT or urea. Duramide was developed as a sturdier molecule, allowing it to extend the protection of nitrogen beyond the window of protection currently offered by NBPT alone. With the dual active ingredient power of Anvil, growers benefit from a rapid inhibition response, like a kickstart effect of NBPT, but also capitalize on the longer-lasting properties of Duramide later in the hydrolysis process. Anvil increases the window of inhibition by up to 27% compared to NBPT. As previously mentioned, environmental conditions like moisture, temperatures, and soil pH can impact the longevity of urease inhibitors like NBPT. This is where Anvil separates itself. A more stable molecule than NBPT, Duramide has been proven to remain effective in various environments and fertilizer blends, delivering the longest-lasting protection against above-ground nitrogen loss. This added longevity increases the opportunity for the nitrogen to be moved into the soil by water and not lost to the environment through ammonia volatilization.
Hopefully that came through okay on your end. But again, just a big thank you to Coke and all of our sponsors. Again, without their support and commitment to this program, we would really not be able to do what we do. So again, encourage you to talk to your reps and thank them for their sponsorship and involvement of this program. I'm sorry, I want to make you go through that again. And next up, Dennis is just going to go through some resources and things.
So I already kind of showed this on the web. So yeah, you click on those resources, and there's access to all of that information there. So, and this just shows some of the information about how to enter data. So if you're having trouble with one of the work lists and you're not sure what's the right way to enter the data, there are brief, like 3 to 5 minute videos here on how to enter the data in each of those different work lists. So those are available on that page. So one of the things that we started last year was this WhatsApp group. And so there's a QR code there on the right-hand side of the screen. We had a 2024 Yen participants group. And so we've closed that. It's still available. You can see it and go back through it and whatnot, but you can't add new comments and whatnot to it. So if you want to be part of the 2025 group, that QR code, you have to scan that from your WhatsApp application. Don't scan it on your phone. You have to be in WhatsApp, open the camera, and then scan it that way, and that'll get you connected. And if you have any trouble, or if you weren't in the WhatsApp group last year and you want to be, contact Alex Dacey, and she'll get you connected. That she is the administrator for our WhatsApp group, and she runs that, and she can add your email address to it and get you connected. It's a great way to share information, and we had about 100 people last year on it, sharing photos and what's going on with my crop, and everything from even guys that were having trouble with fertilizer sticking to the side of their fertilizer bin, and other guys coming on and saying, well, this is how I address that and deal with it. So it's a way to just share information and help each other. So it can get to be quite a few messages at a time. So if you have something good to contribute, please do. If you're just commenting about something that's not related to wheat production, save that for somewhere else. But anyway, so yeah, we welcome all of you to the WhatsApp group. It's just a great way to share information. And then we have the crop track workshops that I mentioned. We'll go in more detail. I just kind of quickly breeze through how to enter data in crop track and get logged in. We have those on March 6th and March 20th. And the emails that are coming out from Alex has the connection info for those. So pay attention for those. And we're going to go through each of the different work lists on those 2 nights. They'll start at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
So we haven't actually sent the links yet. We will make sure they get sent before Thursday next week, though. Yep. Sorry, maybe you said that. I just
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Glazed over.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we're getting kind of ready to wrap up. We wanted to mention all of you here in the Yen are invited to participate in our summer tour this year. The summer tour, we started out in the U.S. In Michigan. And that was in 2023. And then in June of 24 last year, we went to Ontario, visited a bunch of farms there and saw some ag businesses and whatnot. Well, this year in June, we're going to go to the UK. So it's going to be a little bit costlier to go. We can give you more information about that. But this is kind of the tentative schedule. The program will start on Monday, June 9th, and it'll end on Friday, June 13th. On Monday, the plan is we'll be touring Rothamsted. We're not completely locked in on the time of that yet. So the plan is that we'll do that, but remember, we got to finalize those details yet. On Tuesday, we're going to visit 2 farms, Tim Lamyman and Mark Stubbs. They are 2 of the top yen yield winners in their yen program there. On Wednesday, we're going to visit the cereals event, and that's like a crop production and agronomy field day. It's a 2-day event, and they've got great research trials and things planted, demonstration plots. All the seed companies, a lot of the equipment companies that sell cereal related equipment will be there. And that's a great opportunity to visit a bunch of, and you walk those plots and you'll see some remarkable impacts, everything from fertilizer application to fungicide and disease treatment and whatnot. So then on Thursday, we'll head toward the Boston area, and we're going to visit Joe Vickers and David Hoyles. Joe is what they call a monitor farm, and he'll explain to us a little bit about what that is. And that's sort of a kind of a community leadership role that he takes there, and just kind of conveying to the general public what are some of the scientific practices going on farms, and trying to teach them about how we produce food on our farms. Friday, we'll make our way back toward London. We're going to stop at Syngenta's Gillett's Hill research farm in the morning, and then just after lunchtime, we'll drop people back off at the airport. So that's kind of the plan for the program. We already have quite a few people signed up for it. And so we had this last Tuesday of this week, we had our annual grower meeting here in Michigan. And we had asked Mark Stubbs to come be a keynote speaker for us. So Mark is here with us. We've been touring some farms. So Mark, could I get you to come up front here and just introduce yourself to the group? And maybe invite folks to you just sit right in my chair.
Hello, yeah, I'm Mark Stubbs from a town called Louth in Lincolnshire in the UK. That's on the east coast in the middle of the UK. So I've now been part of Yen for probably 10 years or more now. And from it, I started my journey before I joined Yen about 15, 20 years ago, concentrating on soil health. Um, and since then, I've now probably doubled my winter wheat yields for over the last 15 and 20 years. And Yen has been very helpful to me, getting information and trying things what other farmers do. Sometimes what's working on their farm, I'll do a trial and it'll maybe not work on my farm and vice versa. But Yen's a great place to gather a lot of information and share the data. Yes, it is a little bit of a fun competition where you can go down to the pub and brag a little bit or pull your neighbour's leg and that. And me and Tim Lammerman, who you'll visit on the Tuesday, he holds the world record for growing winter wheat. I'm not too far behind him, so me and him always have our mini little competition, share information and that. But it's not about winning or anything like that. It's about the data you can get and what you can help each other with. And that's really what I find the most beneficial thing about Yen, really. If you do come on this trip and visit cereals, it is excellent, and that you get to talk to everyone's there in one place, talking about the crops and everything. There's machinery there talking about tillage things and everything, and you get to see a lot of the experts and everything. So I don't know if there's anything else you want me to add.
No, I would just say, Mark is a good grower. His yield was 246 bushels last year. So we're going to get to go walk his farm and walk and see what 246 bushel wheat looks like, providing we don't have any like flooding conditions like what happened last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so looking forward to a good visit to visit Mark as well as all these other stops too. So, thank you.
Okay.
All right, I think we can go to the next slide.
One thing, Dennis, I don't know if we wanted to mention cost or the website. I realize that's not on here, but I just saw an email come through, so that might be helpful for some others to hear as well.
Okay, so you might have to help me out in Canadian dollars. In US dollars, the cost is just shy of $1,100. And that's the bus picking you up from the airport on Monday, June 9th. That's your hotel, your travel, your meals, and all the stops. And then that's dropping you back off at the airport on Friday. It does not include airline ticket costs. You have to get those on your own. We have several of the people that have said they want to go that want to come a few days early or stay a few days late. That's totally up to you. Those expenses would be on your own. And so $1,100 would be what, closer to 1,400 or so Canadian.
Can you see the website or do you still see the
Yep.
PowerPoint?
Nope.
Okay.
Yep, we see the website.
Here we go.
There, yeah, thank you. So up costs in Canadian, so it's $13.50 per person in a twin or double room. And if you're paying by card, it's $14.90. And then it's another $370 if you want a room that's just a single room by yourself. And then in US dollars, it's $1,065 for two people in a room. And if you want a single room yourself, it's another $275 per person. So you scroll back up to the top. So this is the website And the way you register is on the right-hand side there. You select the Yen networking tour, put your name, email, and phone number in there and what kind of occupancy you want. And then you can leave a message for them in that message box as well. And then they will get back with you to get you registered. And because if you're in Canada, you can pay by electronic check. If you're outside of Ontario, you got to use a credit card. So, and then hit the send button down there, and then somebody will reach back out to you. So, and there's more information on this page about the stops, what, descriptions of them and that kind of thing.
I just threw the link in the chat. Hopefully that opens okay for everyone.
Yep. Okay, and then I think that was it, but we got a few more questions in our chat box or chat window I see.
Yeah, so can someone define green up or breaking dormancy?
Yeah, do you want to do that, Joanna?
Sure. So we define breaking dormancy as we get 7 days in a row of positive growing degree day accumulations. So if your GDDs for 1 day is 0, that wouldn't count. So it's for every 7 days in a row where you get positive GDD calculations. Typically in Ontario or the closest to Ontario, definitely not places like Kentucky, but typically once we hit about from January 1st onward, 250 or 300 GDDs, that's typically when we see green up occur. So you can either use that metric, so from January 1st on, it's about 250 to 300 GDDs, or we say that dormancy is definitely broken once you've hit 7 days of positive GDD accumulation. So in last year, when it was extremely mild winter, we broke dormancy in the most southern part of the province of Ontario. Actually, in January, in early January, we were about 30 days ahead of normal. This year, we have not hit that, so it's going to obviously be later this year. But when you see the 7 days of positive GDD accumulations, that's typically when your wheat has broken dormancy.
Okay, thanks, Joanna.
And then, sorry, go ahead.
Do you want me to put up that comparison tool again? Is it the
dashboards?
Yeah, I think that's
what yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yep, sure. I'll just stop share.
Okay, share. Okay, I assume this is what you're looking for or what you were looking at. In my screen showing up here, right?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so we have there's pre-planting practices, and this is a dashboard by itself. There's one called planting practices, and this is a dashboard by itself. We have fertilizer applications, crop protection applications, and then we have grab sample, which is these are kind of your yield component stuff in here. But you can, click into any one of them. If you hit this little like sideways arrow, it makes it full screen, which is a little bit easier to see. And so you can see there's just a bunch of different information here. This is grain yield based on the total amount of nitrogen applied. And you can see what that relationship is. And this would be for everyone across all 4 years of the yen. So if you wanted to break this up like by soil type and say, so if you wanted to say, what does it look like on a loamy sand? This is the relationship on a loamy sand. And then you see all these other charts changed as well. This is phosphorus applied. This is grain sulfur, number of spring applications, and so on. So you can go in here and change things and see what the information looks like by doing that, and you can interact with it. Or you can say, well, what do these numbers look like based on growers that are doing 3 applications of nitrogen? And you can see what their nitrogen response looks like, the amount of phosphorus, total sulfur applied, and so on. So it's kind of an interactive tool that allows you to get information. If you hover like I'm hovered right now, you can see The average grain protein was 9.7 for those that did 3 applications. And the range was 6 to 13.3. And there were 59 farms that did 3 applications. So this is a way for you to kind of get information. If you hover on a point, it'll tell you what that point is, and so on. So, I mean, you could look at region if you wanted to as well. If you wanted to say, well, I'm interested in Ontario, what does their response look like, and how many applications are they putting on? So you can do that. And so you can get this for, you can interact with all of these different dashboards in here. You get to this by, maybe I should explain that. You can get to it. You go to the Yen website, you go into participant login. And I remember I put earlier, if you haven't been in here before, it'll ask you for the password. I put that in the chat box. But once you get into participant login, click on interactive data dashboards, and that's how you get to it. So was there anything more specific that you wanted to talk about, Mark, or anybody else regarding the dashboards? Okay. Great.
So there is another question in the chat here about GDD trackers. So I just have to check with Tracy that I can actually share this with everyone. But for those in Ontario, Tracy and team have actually been working on this tracker. It's going to be for all crops, or not all crops, but crops that, especially horticulture crops, uses GDDs quite a bit, and then forages and cereals. So I'll just touch base with her to make sure it's good to go, and we can send this to everyone. But this will actually allow you to select locations, dates, and it is a GDD tracker. It also has pest trackers. So for anyone who's interested in horticulture crops, there's lots of stuff in there about disease trackers and that too. I just need to make sure I can actually go ahead and share this with everyone, but this is a tracking tool. If I can, I'll make sure it gets sent out, and this is a way that you can easily track your GDDs. Another way of easily tracking your GDDs is if you're in Ontario anyways, if you use Environment Canada and you go to your local weather station, the average daily temperatures is your GDD accumulation for the day. So you could just you could download the Excel file essentially, and you can just add those up until you get to 300 or 250 to 300. And that is another way of being able to track it, is just downloading that Excel file, and the average daily temperatures is your daily GDDs. But I will touch base and follow up with everyone to see if I can actually share that tracker.
So Joanna, is that only available in Canada or in Ontario?
That's also what I need to check with Tracy, is how I know it pulls Environment Canada data for us, but I don't know if she linked some US data to there. So I'll double check that, but it could be a way for folks. But again, alternatively is if you have a local weather station that you do use, you can use the average daily temperature ratings from your local station, and that is also your GDD trackers as well. But this one's specific, or does have I know Ontario data in there, but I'll try to see if that. Oh yeah, and yeah, Marty actually also put Farm West also has a GDD tracker. They're based in British Columbia, but they have all the Ontario weather station data. But it also only counts from January 1st onward. So when you're looking at a year, it's specific to January 1st, but I'll see if I can send you these trackers because it's a local tracker.
And I have a video of how to download data from our Michigan weather network, but I don't have access to to other states. So yeah, so depending on where you are, you might have to tap into your local weather mesonet or network or whatever they call it. So that's something that it would be nice to build that. And I don't know if that's something we actually had talked about, trying to build that in Crop Track specifically for our Crop Track growers. But yeah, if that's of interest to people, we'd have to figure out how much money we'd have to invest with Crop Track to get them to build that out for us.
Well, there's also just so many other tools already available rather than reinventing the wheel. Like it'd be nice for folks to use the tools currently available, but we'll make sure that we get something, some advice and some guidance is sent to you in one of those communication emails. We'll make sure that that gets out to you through that. And yeah, Bill, that's actually a very good point. So I'm talking in Celsius. So the 250 to 300, I'm talking in Celsius, so it's going to be slightly different for Fahrenheit.
Yeah, for me, Bill, when I download data from the weather station, I can easily convert it to Celsius, and that's how I do it. I've got a video on how to do that off from our website that I could share with everybody. But yeah, if you only have Fahrenheit, you've got to do the calculation every day to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius in order to get the accurate GDDs, because it is base 0 in Celsius degrees.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. I guess just then to wrap up, I see here we're pushing on 2 hours. But again, just really wanted to highlight and give a huge shout out to all of our sponsors. Jody and Marty, I don't know if you wanted to add anything specific on this. Please feel free to jump in. But please, if you have the opportunity to speak to anyone from any of these organizations, I would encourage you to thank them for their continued support of the program, because again, it wouldn't be possible without them. I don't know if you guys, others had some comments on that.
Yeah, just on behalf of Great Farmers Ontario, that we help support as well. We're really grateful for all the farmers that can participate in this program. I think it's a great learning opportunity for everybody, as well as ourselves and extension staff, and just a great sharing amongst all producers and how we can move wheat production in the Great Lakes Basin. So greatly appreciated for all the farmer participants, as well as the sponsors that are helping us to support and offset the costs. Farmers are paying for this as well. Not through also through their association, also through their funds that they're paying for these. But we have a lot of expenses on shipping and the sampling and the testing and everything. So greatly appreciate everybody's support in this project.
I would echo Marty's thank you for all the participants, the sponsors. If there are growers out there that work with groups or organizations that you think we should reach out to, certainly let us know. From the participants from the US side, be watching your inboxes next week, because we'll get invoices out to those who've not received them yet, and we'll make sure that you have all of your information. So we appreciate it, and I look forward to another outstanding year.
Awesome. Thank you, Marty and Jody. Oh, sorry, too many screens here. Just lastly, who to contact. So if you've got questions about protocols, data collection, anything like that, please feel free to shoot Dennis and I an email. Alex is also a great support. And if you've got like registration questions, sponsorship questions, all of that, Jody and Alex are the right touch points for that. I've seen my inbox is being flooded with requests for device keys and different things. So today we will try to get you set up on that. Please, please, please let us know if you're having any issues getting into Crop Track, getting hooked up on your mobile device. Please, no question is too stupid or too silly. Ask, we're here to support and help you. If you have questions about your package, didn't receive your package, there's something we mentioned today that wasn't in your package, please let us know, and we'll try to correct that for you. But I'd really encourage you to take this opportunity to get in your field, learn more about your crop. To be totally blunt, what you put into this program is what you get out of it. And we've heard from growers, they're getting into their field more, they're learning way more about their crop that they never knew before. I would encourage you to engage with your peers. I definitely highly recommend that WhatsApp group chat. I really think it's a great opportunity to learn. I learn so much from it every day, even though there's like 100 messages. There's really a lot to learn there. So I would just really encourage you to get involved, and I hope that this is a great learning opportunity for all of you. But again, we're here to support you and to answer your questions, so please do not ever hesitate to reach out to us. With that, we will be sending this recording, I believe, to you, or at least we'll send you a link to the posting of it, but it will definitely be on the website, so you can always refer back to it. And again, use those resources as well.